Good morning, y'all. It is day 18 of Vlogmas and of Bookish Advent. It's also my last day of work before Christmas break. I cannot believe I have posted a video every day for 18 days. It has not been easy. Some of these days have been the biggest days of my work year thus far. Wow. I'm stoked. I'm excited. And I'm also excited that it's almost Christmas, and I'm also really excited that I'm about to go over to my table and sit down and share with you half of my birthday book haul. I'm gonna have to do it in 2 rounds because I know that my last box of books is arriving today. And they're not here yet, but I need to film now because this is when it fits in my day. So I'm gonna film the first half today, and then depending on what time the other box arrives today, I might film the second half today and it'll be seamless, or you might get part 2 tomorrow. So believe me, there are plenty of books to fill 2 to fill 2 videos. So I'm opening my book. It's a graphic novel, and they just make me laugh. It's The Bug Boys. It's the Bug Boys novel. This came out in February of 2020, so it's already out, and even though what I have here is an ARC, it is totally one of my goals for 2021 to read more graphic novels, so this has arrived just in time. Hello, I'm really excited to do this, so let's just jump right in. The first 4 books I'm going to show you have something to do with 2 different reading challenges that I'm going to be doing in 2021. The first reading challenge that I'm really excited about is to read all of Dickens in a year, sans the Pickwick Papers, because I just read the Pickwick Papers. They're all used, so they're all mismatched, so I'll just show them to you. I've ordered Oliver Twist, which is what I will be starting with, because as I said, I've already read Pickwick Papers, which is his first full-length published novel. His second is Oliver Twist. So I'll be starting here. I also ordered a copy of Nicholas Nickleby and a copy of Barnaby Rudge. This is the book by Dickens that I know the least about. I believe that it is a work of historical fiction and that it is based on true events. So other than that, I don't really know anything, and those 2 things might also be wrong. I'll have to find out. The second reading challenge that I'm really excited to be a part of is the reading of Barsetshire, that's how you say it. The reading of the Barsetshire Chronicles by Anthony Trollope. I've never read any Anthony Trollope, so I'm really excited to do this and to do it with a group of people on Instagram. The first book in that is The Warden. I have also ordered the second book, which is the Barchester Towers. And if you've been watching my Vlogmas videos, you know that I ordered that book. It should be here, but what arrived was a cheesy romance instead. And so I'm still waiting on the replacement of that to arrive. So those 4 classics I am reading with groups of people, and I'm really excited to do that. Next, I have 4 nonfiction books. The first one is one that I've been curious about for a really long time, and one that I almost read this year for my 200 Women project. This year I set myself the goal of reading 200 works by 200 women across 200 years. And this one almost made the cut but didn't quite, and so I decided to go ahead and pick it up anyway. I got this from Book Outlet. It was very inexpensive. It's a small little volume, and it is a memoir by Lady Colin Campbell, who was an avid walker and climber. And so I'm going to read about her adventures walking and climbing in the Victorian Edwardian period. And so that I think will be extremely interesting. Next, I have My Friend Anna And this is the true story of a fake heiress. I saw this go down on the news. I think I saw a 2020 episode or something like that, a Dateline, I don't know, and was completely intrigued by this woman who was able to become someone she was not, be completely accepted as a rich heiress in New York society, and yet had no money whatsoever, but lived this extremely high life. So I'm really interested in this. It sounds like something Dickensian, and yeah, so excited to read this. Then I picked up a copy of Big Sister, Little Sister, Red Sister, Three Women at the Heart of 20th Century China. I've heard mixed reviews about this, but Wild Swans by Jung Cheng is one of my absolute favorite books. It is one of my most re-gifted books of all time. I've purchased multiple copies of it because every time I meet somebody who hasn't read it, I give them my copy. And then I want a copy, so I buy a new copy. I also read Mao by this author and found it extremely well-researched and interesting, but it did not captivate me as much as Wild Swans has captivated me for decades. I purchased this because I am very interested in books that take place in places of the world that I have never been. This one feels really wintry to me, and it is intriguing to me. So this is The Palace of the Snow Queen, Winter Travels in Lapland. This is a memoir, and I thought this cover was just absolutely gorgeous, but as you can see, in carefully removing the sticker, it has left not only shiny residue behind, which will not come off no matter what I try, but also it has literally taken the ink off the book and ruined this absolutely gorgeous cover. So having read the first couple pages, I may need to purchase a brand new copy of this. We shall see. But this is a memoir. It is about the author, who I'm not going to try to say her name because I do not want to butcher it, but it says that she is a frequent traveler to Scandinavia. She sets off one winter to travel through a landscape and season that has long intrigued her, beginning with a visit to northern Sweden's ice hotel. She has spent 3 winters in Lapland. She talks about dog sledding, ice cinema, just all sorts of things. So I love to read about things that are going to take me to places that I've never been, and I think this is really going to do it for me, and it's winter setting, so really excited about this one. Next, I have a stack of fiction. You can see it's very tall because you can already see part of it. Okay, so this one is one of the few brand new books that I purchased. This is Exiles. It is about the experience of a woman, a British woman, who is accused of a crime and is sent to Australia as a convict. I do believe that it is based on a true person. That sort of story intrigues me. It happens in the 1840s. I don't know a whole lot about it. It was a no-thinking pick for me. So I ordered this one and I'm excited to read it. It will maybe be one of the first that I read. And then I started reading The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle on audiobook, but found it extremely hard to pay attention and did not really like the narrator. And so I purchased a copy of this. My sister is very excited. She's the one who told me to read it. She read it and she loved it and she wants to talk about it with somebody. Then this one I almost got as a brand new copy, but there just happened to be one at Better World Books, and that's pretty exciting and pretty rare because this is new this year. This is The American Fiancé. This book sounds bizarre and wonderful. So in this extraordinary breakout novel, a rich, devastatingly humorous epic of one unforgettable family, Eric Dupont illuminates the magic of stories, the bonds of family, the twists of fate that transform our lives. Mayhem ensues. I don't know. It's an intriguing cover, and I do like family sort of long epic sagas. And so I'm excited to read this one, and I might not have purchased it if I had only had the option of purchasing a new hardback copy of that one, but because I could get it for quite inexpensive at Better World Books, I thought, why not? The next one is a classic that I have been wanting to read for a really long time. This author is hit or miss with me, and I often tend to enjoy the things that are less celebrated by this author than the things that are very celebrated. That is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Of Mice and Men is one of my most hated books of all time, but The Moon is Down is one of my very favorite books of all time. So I don't know where this is going to fall, but I did pick East of Eden because it's going to seem so random, but because I remember seeing it on my grandmother's nightstand. The next is another one of those books that's completely ruined by library glue. So I got The Ghost of Mary Celeste, and I literally picked this up, added it to my cart in Better World Books because I saw Savage Reads start to read this, and they were talking about it and all the things that are in it about the ghost ship and the clairvoyance and, you know, just the historical fiction aspect of it. And it just sounds so awesome. So it's a ghost ship appears in the mist. To the struggling writer Arthur Conan Doyle, it is an inspiration, and we know Arthur Conan Doyle is the author of the Sherlock Holmes mysteries. To Violet Petra, the gifted American psychic, it is a nightmare, and to the death-obsessed Victorian public, it is a fascinating distraction. So I purchased this completely on a whim. Another book I bought because of BookTube is this one. This is The Fair Fight, Two Women, Two Worlds, One Way Out. And I purchased this because Lauren at Lauren in the Books keeps talking about it and showing it. And she hasn't read it yet, unless by this point she has. She hasn't done a video about having read it yet. And it sounded so interesting to me. And I think it was just a case of, here, it's in front of your face. And look, here, it's on Better World Books. So I purchased this one too. Thank you, BookTube. Oh goodness, this is another one that I purchased because of BookTube and another one that I purchased because of Savage Reads on BookTube. That is Never Alone by Elizabeth Haynes. This is a mystery. Can I just say that the cover of this book is so silky and the weight of it, the pages are so heavy. It is like a weighted blanket of cozy goodness. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. The cover just looks so spooky. I love it. I love everything about it. It says Sarah Carpenter lives with her 2 dogs in a farmhouse high on the North Yorkshire moors. Anything in Yorkshire? Take my money, please. She isn't exactly lonely, though. When an old friend, Aidan Beck, needs a place to stay, she welcomes him into her home, but Aidan has secrets. Of course he does. And as the weather closes in and snowfall blocks the road, Sarah realizes that there are far worse things than being alone. Oh, I love it. I'm so excited. I just wish that I could read them all right this second. And then I recently read an arc by Jocelyn Jackson, which was Mother May I, and I loved it so much. So I decided to pick up another book by Jocelyn Jackson. Now, this is an example of a library book that was completely unaffected by the removal of its plastic cover and its stickers. It is completely unharmed. And it really was a library book. You can see, I know it's possible, librarians. Please, please invest in glue that doesn't ruin books. But love this. Never have I ever. Excited to read another mystery by her. It's going to be another like family life sort of mystery. My next pile is only 4 books large, and it is my YA purchases that have arrived thus far. This is the second book that I purchased brand new, and that is Watch Over Me. This gave me Jane Eyre vibes with a little bit of Turn of the Screw thrown in. So I'm excited to read this one. I also just love that cover, and watch this, wait for it. Oh. So eyes, look at the eyes, look at the eyes, look at the eyes. So beautiful. It says, Mila is used to being alone. Maybe that's why she said yes. Yes to a second chance in this remote place among the flowers and the fog and the crash of the waves below. But she hadn't known about the ghosts. Newly graduated from high school, Mila has aged out of the foster care system, so when she's offered a teaching job and a place to live on an isolated part of the Northern California coast, she immediately accepts. Maybe she will finally find a new home, a real home. So it goes on from there, but doesn't that just give you Jane Eyre vibes all over? So I'm excited to read this one. Jane Eyre is, of course, one of my favorite books of all time. And then next, I purchased these also, proof, these also were library books, completely unharmed by the removal of their stickers. Love it. But I purchased these, Furthermore and Witchwood, because I read or I listened to Witchwood on Audible and was completely enchanted by it. And I have put these in my young adult pile because of some of the content, but I do think that they are geared toward, I'll show you the other cover too. I do think that they are geared toward middle grade as well. They're just gorgeous. And I've not read the sequel yet, so I'm excited about that. Look how beautiful. Beautiful books, love them. So our story begins on a frosty night. Laylee can barely remember the happier times before her beloved mother died, before her father, driven by grief, lost his wits and his way, and she was left as the sole remaining moored shore in the village of Witchwood, destined to spend her days scrubbing the skins and souls of the dead in preparation for the afterlife. It's become easy to forget and easier still to ignore not only her ever-increasing loneliness, but the way her overworked hands are stiffening and turning silver, just like her hair. But soon a pair of familiar strangers appear and Laylee's world is turned upside down as she rediscovers color, magic, and the healing power of friendship. This book was a delight to listen to. Just really, really lovely and enchanting. My last choice here is this one. Again, another library book, but completely unharmed by the stickers, and also one of those really velvety covers. Like, oh, I love it so much. But this is a book that is written by Jodi Picoult and her daughter, which I love that concept, and it's called Off the Page, and this is a companion to Between the Lines fantasy novel. It says, meet Oliver, a prince literally taken from the pages of a fairy tale and transported into the world. Meet Delilah, the girl who wished Oliver into being, and it just goes on from there. So this just sounded like really fun, kind of lighthearted read to me. I've enjoyed several of her books, and so I am looking forward to enjoying this book. And now I just have one more stack that's here with me right now for this first part of my birthday book haul. And they are all, oh wait, this doesn't belong in middle grade, this is young adult. So I got Throne of Glass, and I know this is gonna send me down a long spiral, but I have a former student who I often meet with on Zoom now to talk about books, who recommended this series to me. And so I purchased this. It's been sitting here for a while now. And this is one book that I did purchase new. I'm open. So that belongs on the young adult pile as well. But now I'm gonna pull my middle grade books over. I do have more middle grade books coming in the package that hasn't arrived yet today. I adore middle grade fiction, and I even more adore middle grade fiction book covers. The North Child by Edith Pateau. So Rose is an unusual child, a North child. Rose was born facing north, and the old stories say she will venture far from home and embark on a dangerous journey, making a pact with an enormous white bear. Rose travels on his back to a mysterious castle that holds a dark enchantment, a dark temptation, and the key to her true identity. Is this cover just not so gorgeous? It's so gorgeous. And there's the bear right there. So I'm really excited to read this one. I've heard very good things about it. This was also another BookTube influence purchase. Then I got this one, which is the first in a series. I only got the first one because I don't know how I'm going to feel about the series, but I am intrigued by time travel in middle grade. And so this is about Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I, and a girl in our time period, and how that girl ends up traveling back in time. There's some sort of family connection there. I don't know what it is. But I'm looking forward to reading this. This is the kind of book that when I was a middle grade student, I would have been eating up as if it were candy. So as an adult, my instinct is to gravitate towards these, and sometimes I don't enjoy them now. I'm hoping that I'm gonna love this one though. I bought this one purely for the cover, people. Purely for the cover, but I am also excited about the content. However, it must be known that I bought it purely for the cover. It is a used book that I got from a library. I could not get those stickers off, but there are no stickers harming the actual spine or cover of this book, so that is good. So this is the tragical tale of Bertie Bloom, and I did see this on as a new copy and went and looked to see if I could find it inexpensively used or on Book Outlet, and turns out that I could, so I went ahead and purchased it. This is the tragical tale of Bertie Bloom. You can see there's a dragon, there's a witch, just all sorts of fun here, and it says, in the fairy tale kingdom of Wonderly, everyone has a role. Bertie Bloom is a tragical. Doomed to an unhappy ending, she spends her days locked away with 17 other orphans at Foulweather's home for the tragical, where she's supposed to be learning to accept her terrible fate. Agnes Prunella Crunch is a witch, the wicked kind, which means she's supposed to be perfecting her witchy cackle and flinging curses from the book of evil deeds. But lately, Bertie has been desperate for an escape, and Agnes has been in a bit of a witchy slump. The one thing they could both use is a friend. And with the help of some magical winds, a wayward letter, and a very unusual book, they might just find each other and together rewrite their story into one that, just between us, isn't very tragical at all. I mean, it's so delightful. How do you say no to that? I can't say no to that. So look at that fun little book. I just love it so much. It's so pretty. And then this one I purchased. I don't own the first one in this series in a physical book because 1 or 2 years ago, 2 years ago now I think, I was given the first book as an ARC in digital form and read that and loved it. And so when I saw that the second one was set in like a wintry sort of scene, I went ahead and purchased it. At some point I will purchase the first volume in this series. And that was Aggie Morton, Mystery Queen, Peril at Owl Park. And this is Aggie, or Agatha, as in Agatha Christie, and her friend Hector, as in Hector Poirot. They are young and they are solving mysteries. What more do you need? The mystery in the first book that I read, although I did figure it out, I definitely believe that a middle grade reader would be truly challenged, and so get those critical thinking skills working really hard. And then these last two books that I have to show you from this first round of birthday book haul are two books that I bought for sentimental reasons. One I already own a copy of. I own a mass market paperback copy with Winona Ryder on the cover, and I have owned that since I was 17 years old, and I have never had another copy. But I've been eyeing this beautiful copy of Little Women by Louisa May Alcott for many a year, and I have literally gone into bookstores and picked it up and carried it around, and then at the last minute decided, no, I don't need it. I have a copy of Little Women, but it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And after wanting it and never stopping wanting it for many years, I went ahead and got it for myself. It is beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful, and I might just reread it. I reread it this year. I reread my old mass market paperback copy for my 200 Women project. I reread this, but I just might reread it again this year because now I have this beautiful copy, and I love how thick that spine is. As a child, I would have been salivating over this edition. My inner child is just like, over this edition. It is not as soft as I would like it to be. I wish that it were a cloth cover, but this artwork is stunning. Absolutely stunning. And then the last book I have to show you in the first round of birthday book haul is The Little House Cookbook. I still love the Little House books. I reread all of them this in 2020. And when I saw this, which I have been eyeing for a decade or more, I thought I might as well get it. It was on, you can see by the mark on the bottom, it was on Book Outlet. It was very inexpensive, and I purchased it, and I didn't really know what I was getting. I didn't really care, but in it you can find a compilation of all of the times that food is mentioned throughout the books, and then where possible, the real Ingalls and Wilder family recipes are provided. It is just a beautiful compendium of cooking in the Wilder and Ingalls family homes. But ones that are of interest to me are the ones that are from the Long Winter, which was a time of great hardship for these families. So you get recipes like tomato preserves, beet pickles, green tomato pickles. Yeah, just super, super fun and nostalgic. I don't know that I will make much out of this book, but I'm gonna look through and see if there are any Christmassy type recipes, and maybe I will make one next week. Goodness gracious, that's a lot of books. Okay, here we go. Workday is done, round 2 of birthday book haul, and there's a lot of books. But I mean, it's just the Book Outlet order that finally came in, but there's a significant amount of books I'm about to show you for round 2. But before I do that, look at this amazing bookmark that my sister made me with the little tassel and everything. And this arrived today in the mail, so sweet. Also, this is why Book Outlet keeps my business. They included a little $5 off coupon in my order, probably because I ordered so many books. But let's just dive right into it. I got The Restless Girls by Jessie Burton, illustrated by Angela Barrett. And it is just beautiful. Look at that. It does have a significant amount of wordage, but it has these gorgeous illustrations that just really entrance you. I had a feeling that this was going to be beautiful, beautiful illustration, and I was not wrong. It's very light on the words, but it's a gorgeous story. There are a couple of pictures that really stick out to me. One is this one. I just love that. Very atmospheric, and the detail is just gorgeous. And the other is this one. Look at that. Just look at that. It's gorgeous. So, this is a beautiful book, but if you're still looking for a gift for someone, this could be it. I'm keeping this one for myself. That is The Real Jane Austen, A Life in Small Things. I love the take of this book. Each chapter is dedicated to a different small thing. And so you're learning about the object or the idea within the context of the time and within the context of Jane Austen's life and world. So for example, there is a chapter called The Laptop. Not the kind of laptop you're thinking of. There is a chapter called The Bathing Machine. There is a chapter called The Card of Lace, The Marriage Bands, The Barouche, The Sisters, The Subscription List, The Vellum Notebooks, The Topaz Crosses. There are 18 small things that shed vast amounts of light, not only onto Jane Austen's life, but onto the lives of members of her family and into the lives of people who lived alongside her who did not have their names remembered. Just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. My next stack is going to be fiction, adult fiction. I got this as a library book at least 2 years ago, and only read the first chapter and a half and then had to return it. And so when I saw it at Book Outlet, I was like, I have to get that one. I have to get that one because I have to finish that story. Otherwise this woman is just gonna keep falling in the mud and arriving at this house in my head. I have here The Glass Woman. I didn't know anything about this when I got it. This feels like a Jane Eyre, like a nod to Jane Eyre. And I've had a couple of other ones that feel like a nod to Jane Eyre already, and I'm not sad about that. It takes place in Iceland. Basically, from what I can tell from the little blurb, is that a woman gets married and her husband expects her to like kind of be a very good housewife, not have much personality or ideas for her own, but she does have ideas of her own. She starts to hear sounds in the attic. She's been banned from going into the attic. Her husband was married before her, and now things start to happen that make her question the sounds in the attic, the disappearance or the death of her wife, or her husband's first wife, the gossip in the town about that first wife's disappearance or death, the attitudes that her husband has. I think that, I mean, it's written in the blurb, so it can't be a spoiler, right? I hope it's not a spoiler, but it's written in the blurb that her husband gets injured, which opens up a whole like can of worms, because now suddenly either she has to access the attic, or now she feels free to sneak in to access the attic, and who knows what she finds there. Foxfire by Anya Seton, or Seton, I'm not sure how you say that. I read Dragonwyck last year, or this, it's not 2021 yet. I read Dragonwyck by this author and watched the old Vincent Price movie of Dragonwyck by this author in 2020 as part of my 200 Women project. I really enjoyed it. It was very 1950s storytelling. You know, it doesn't take place in the 1950s, but like I've read a lot of books from authors who wrote in the 1950s, and it had that feeling. I assume this will have something of the same. And it is about what's her name? Amanda Lawrence, who travels with her husband from New York, where she has been a sheltered socialite. And she's a sheltered New York socialite. She falls in love with a man named Jonathan Dartland, who is part Apache. So they move from New York to Arizona, and it's kind of like how she has to become a survivor and learn to thrive outside of her comfort zone. So I like fish out of water stories. I like stories with that like 1950s feel to the writing style. I really enjoyed, like I said, Dragonwyck by this author, so I am guessing I will probably enjoy this one as well. The next book on my adult fiction pile is The Test, which I saw, who did I see? This was another one that I purchased because of BookTube. It's a very slim little volume. Drinking by My Shelf. I saw this on Drinking by My Shelf, and so I saw this one and I picked it up. I didn't read about it or anything. I just know what her response to it was. I was very intrigued by her response to it, and so when it arrived, I read about it for the first time. And so it's very sparse on the back, but there's a lot of information. It says, Britain, the not too distant future. A deer is sitting the British citizens. A deer is sitting the British citizen. I can't say that word. A deer is sitting the British citizenship test. I think I just flunked it. Citizenship test. He wants his family to belong. 25 questions to determine the worth of a life, 25 chances to impress. When the test takes an unexpected and tragic turn, a deer is handed the power of life and death. But how do you value another person's life when all you have is multiple choice? Bristol House. I knew nothing about this book, but it sounds right up my alley. It is about a historian who is visited by the ghost of a monk as she tries to research some ancient artifacts that are at Bristol House, and how she then meets a man who looks exactly like the monk who appeared to her as a ghost. Mysteries ensue, and it's not time travel, but it's like interacting with the past, and the past influencing the future. And I think it is told in 2 different time periods. And so there's mystery and there's ghosts and there's history. Yes, so that is this in a nutshell. Don't know much about it, but I do know it has a lot of the things that I really love in a story. And so I'm just embracing it. I also really love the cover. Yeah. Anyway, when books are $3 a piece, you just go for them, you know? Okay, The Sacrament. This is another one of those Iceland books. So this one is about a nun who was called to Iceland to investigate some possible poor behavior on behalf of a school, a Catholic school in Iceland. While there, one of the main priests, or maybe the head of the school, not sure which, or maybe it's both, dies. And a student sees this person fall to their death. Time passes, the nun grows old. The student who saw this person fall to their death also grows up in Iceland. The nun goes to Paris. And when this student grows up, they want to rehash this incident and they want to find out how exactly this person died. Some unknowns there. And so the student, now an adult, calls the nun, now elderly, back. Meanwhile, at some point, the nun has run into a girl in Paris who is Icelandic, and there's some story going on there as well. So Paris, Iceland, mystery, the past influencing the future, the past coming back to haunt us, all these things I truly enjoy. The cover alone is enough to pull me in. That dark, frozen, stark. I think this time of year, like, I just really want those atmospheric reads. Who am I kidding? I'd read that in the dead of summer. Next, I just finished reading Glitter. And while I do have some issues with it, predominantly with a huge historical inaccuracy about where Marie Antoinette was beheaded, which I just feel like would have been the easiest possible fact to double check. So I really have like a huge chip on my shoulder about that. If that weren't in the book, then the book would be a very extremely enjoyable, quick young adult read. I might even consider reading it again. So I did go ahead and order this before I had read Glitter, just because I had a feeling about Glitter that I was really going to enjoy it. Now, Glitter is about a future time where the Palace of Versailles has been purchased by a major corporation called Sonoma, and so it's now Sonoma Versailles. And within that kingdom, which is kind of like its own country, they run things as if it were the time period of Louis, all the Louis. And so they live, and their society operates in kind of a hierarchical system. There is a king, and it's still like in Versailles, it's in the city of Versailles, and all of France really despises the people who, they're called the Louis, and all the people who live within Sonoma Versailles are called the Louis, and they really despise them because Sonoma cheated France out of ownership. They cheated them into selling Versailles. They said that they were going to be a heritage trust, and then they closed it off and brought all their own people in and created their own little kingdom. Within this kingdom, things are not all great, but there's one law that is, you know, incredibly enforced, and that is no drugs, because they want to keep all the outside authorities out so that they can continue to run things the way they want to. So no drugs. But there is a young girl, Danica, who is going to be forced to marry the king, and she wants out because she knows something about him that makes him very, very undesirable to her. And so she decides, this all happens very early on, I'm giving you no spoilers. So she decides that she's going to find a way out. She makes a deal with a black market type person who is Parisian, and starts to bring in a very addictive drug called glitter into the court, packages it as a cosmetic, and without anyone knowing that they are partaking of a drug, just by wearing the cosmetics that are so popular that the future queen is peddling. They all become addicted to this drug and they keep they have to buy more and more and more. So what happens and how does it happen and what goes down? There's a huge cliffhanger in the end. Huge cliffhanger, like nothing is resolved in the end. Not one thing is resolved in the end of that book. I didn't know that when I bought the second book, but I'm so glad I did buy the second book. I'm not checking to see if there's a huge cliffhanger, but I'm hoping there's not. I cannot tell you what this book is about though, because it picks up where the last book left off, as if it were simply the end of the first book. So I can't actually tell you what this one is about without ruining the first book, so I won't. Next I got The Queen of Hearts. I've been curious about this one for a long time with this whole series. I think there are 3 books in the series at this point. This is Alice in Wonderland from the point of view of the Queen of Hearts. She is a normal woman who has her heart broken, or she's a normal girl who has her heart broken, and so it's kind of her backstory. I've said this before, I really like when authors humanize demonized characters from history and literature. This was a no-brainer for me. Then I got this, Bun O'Keefe. This takes place in Newfoundland, a very sheltered girl who only is aware of the outside world or the world outside of Newfoundland from old VHS tapes and magazine pictures, lives with a mother who is highly non-functioning. One day it gets kicked out of her house, so she has to join the real world. So she has to join the outside world, I'll say outside world, and she ends up moving in with a cast of characters. This kind of feels a little Oliver Twist-ish to me. I don't know for sure, having only read the back of it. I get those kind of vibes off of it. We'll see. It seems dark. So I picked up this one, which also takes place in Canada. This is the story of a girl who, she's of Indian origin, like from India, the subcontinent. She has just moved to Canada from Saudi Arabia. She's the new girl. She gets involved with the bad boy and she has to think, I think she has to come to terms with choices she's making and how those choices look in light of her culture and her belief system. She's a Zoroastrian, which is an element that I really like. I used to teach in northern India and I had Zoroastrian children and students. I did not have children, but I had students. I don't think I ever saw an Own Voices book for my Zoroastrian students. I would love to see more of that kind of representation. Next, I picked up this one, Sawkill Girls. I love this cover. It reminds me also of Wilder Girls, even though I know that they're different things, they're different entities, but I picked this one up. It's about 4 girls and how their stories come together on the island of Sawkill Rock. So Sawkill is their location, their setting. I think this is a mystery, a thriller. I know it's an older one and you are all probably fully aware of what it's about, but I am not, and I'm gonna keep it that way as I go into it. Next, I picked up a graphic novel. I think I've already said today, because I got a graphic novel for my Advent book. I think I said that in 2021, one of my goals is to read more graphic novels. So I picked up this one. This is based on a true story, takes place in Paris. It's about a young girl who takes photographs, and I think that's how she's going to survive the war. World War II setting, pre-World War II, into World War II, and I think out of World War II, but it is based on a true story. So I'm excited about this. Just so you know, this is what the illustrations look like. This one I read nothing about and didn't prepare for this little like blip at all, but for whatever reason, this book appealed to me greatly. I don't know. When I pulled it out of the box, I was like, oh yeah, I did get really enamored of that book, but I don't remember what it's about at all. So I'm gonna read to you the flap right now. It says, sisters Lu and Min have always known their places as the princesses of the Empire of First Flame. Assertive Lu will be named her father's heir and become the dynasty's first female ruler, while timid Min will lead a quiet life in Lu's shadow, until their father names a new heir. Their male cousin, Set. Determined to reclaim her birthright, Lu goes in search of allies, leaving Min to face the volatile court alone. Lu soon crosses paths with Nokai, the lone, unlikely survivor of a clan of nomadic wolf shapeshifters. This is a fantasy, and I'm trying to read more fantasy. And then we're back in Paris. with the game of hope. So she is the stepdaughter of Napoleon. That puts her in a tight spot. Tumultuous days of the French Revolution. She loves to play and compose music, read and paint and daydream about Christophe, her brother's dashing fellow officer. But Hortense is not an ordinary girl. Her beautiful, charming mother, Josephine, has married Napoleon Bonaparte, soon to become the most powerful man in France, but viewed by Hortense as a coarse, unworthy successor to her elegant father, who was guillotined during the Terror. But is her stepfather truly so vile? So there you go. We've got that again, that idea that possibly we might humanize someone who we tend to demonize. We've got The Taming of the Shoe. A girl who lives in New York, whose mother writes infomercial jingles, and it is a retelling of a Shakespeare play, The Taming of the Shrew. Next is The Book of Unwise Magic. Years ago, Ava's family left the town of Wise under a shroud of mystery, some scandal having to do with magical mirrors. Now returning as indentured servants, Ava and her older brother Matthew suspect their new master, Lord Skinner, is up to no good. So, The Book of Unwise Magic. These are just some of the hands down most beautiful books in publication today, and that alone makes me want to buy them. I did not love Winter House the first time I read it. I actually gave it I think I gave it 2 stars. It just wasn't the book for me at that moment. But I reread it because I was about to give it away. And I thought, you know, I don't want to give it away because it's so pretty. I don't want to keep it just because it's pretty and I never read it. So I decided to give it another read. I actually really loved it. I really loved it the second time through. I found the writing clever. I found the characters engaging. I found humor. I had a great experience. So when I saw the second book was on the cheap, I went ahead and got it, and I'm happy to have it. The next book I got is The Girl with the Dragon Heart. I love that cover. This one says, Silk has always been good at spinning the truth into stories, so good that just years after arriving in the city without her parents, she's made best friends with a dragon and become master promoter for the most splendid chocolate makers in the kingdom. She has even bigger dreams for her future, and her gift for weaving words has caught the eye of the royal family. Courage, chocolate, and all of her hard-won skills, can she save her city and spin a happy ending to her own family's story? This series here, this is the first one. This is Nicholas St. North and the Battle of the Nightmare King. And I could have gotten, they're all on the back here, but I could have also gotten E. Aster Bunnymund, Toothania, and the Sandman. They did not have Jack Frost. But I could have gotten all but one of them. I hope I don't kick myself. These are also just gorgeous books. They're so beautiful. But this is Nicholas St. North, destined to be known as Santa Claus, is no hero. But when a true villain named Pitch, the Nightmare King, brings unthinkable darkness to the world with his fearling army, North will discover that heroes are not born, they're made. Listening for Lions. Africa. Whoa, I picked a book set in Africa? That's as wild as the book I picked set in Arizona. You mean it's not set in Asia, Canada, Paris, or Iceland? What are you doing? Africa is the only home Rachel Sheridan has ever known, but when influenza strikes down her missionary parents, she is left vulnerable, prey to her family's wicked neighbors. Surrounded by greed and lies, Rachel is entangled in a criminal scheme and sent to England, where she is forced into a life of deception. Like the lion, she must be patient and strong, awaiting the moment when she can take control of her own fate and find her way home again at last. I have a gut feeling that this would be an excellent read-aloud book, which is why I picked this up, but the cover is so beautiful. And that is this one right here, which is Spendthrift and the Orchid. But Spendthrift, when a man walks into her grandfather's curiosity shop and asks about a black orchid, Spendthrift turns him away. She's never seen such a thing until one night it appears. Spendthrift, an orphan, has one keepsake from her parents, a clear glass orb. Except it's not quite clear any longer. She watches as a black orchid forms inside the crystal. The flower blooms into a towering woman in a dress of midnight silk and air, a woman with the power to grant wishes. It's fun at first, a miracle, a wonder, but having everything you want is hard to hide. Soon, Spendthrift and her orchid are being hunted. Drawn into a dangerous mystery, Spendthrift is forced to ask herself who her parents really were and whether wish really isn't just another word for curse. I think this one will also make an absolutely gorgeous read aloud. And believe it or not, that's it. I'm gonna read most of these in the next 2 weeks because starting this evening, I am on winter break. This is my winter break happy dance. Dance with me, y'all. Dance. And on that weird note, I'm gonna say happy Vlogmas, and I'll see you sometime tomorrow.